Alright, let's take it back a bit. There is a very large history of Marvel Comics, and that makes people think that they can't really get into it because they won't know everything. I mean, personally, I think that you can just go to any issue that interests you, but Marvel had an idea to modernize their characters, so in the early 2000s, they created Marvel's Ultimate Universe. Since it was an alternate timeline, they could have characters die and forever change. So they created a brand new comic line with stuff like the Ultimates, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and the one that's known as the best, Ultimate Spider-Man. And what's crazy is in that comic line, they made Nick Fury like Samuel L. Jackson, and then later, he played Nick Fury in the MCU. And there was a lot of other changes, like how they made the Avengers the Ultimates, and they were kind of more military-ish. And, we don't talk about the Ant-Man in that universe, And in that universe, Thor wasn't 100% the god of thunder. It was a mystery on whether he was or wasn't. Spider-Man was back to his roots. He was back in high school, and actually, Uncle Ben was alive for a few issues. That's different from the mainline continuity, because in the original Amazing Fantasy 15, Uncle Ben was only in there for 2 panels. But now, I need to talk about Mr. Fantastic, because he's probably the most important character in the Ultimate Universe. In mainline comics, Reed Richards had an amazing family, and they would encourage him to learn more. But for Ultimate Reed Richards, his dad would abuse him because he wanted to learn more, and they would not encourage what Reed wanted to do, and that made him angry. But then the Fantastic Four came together again, so yeah. And then the Ultimate Universe went on, but the only thing is, it wasn't really well received, except for Spider-Man. But Spider-Man would soon come to an end. Spider-Man dies trying to save his friends and family from the Green Goblin. But that's not the end of the story of Ultimate Spider-Man, because later, in that universe, Miles Morales would get introduced as the brand new Spider-Man. When Miles first finds out he has the powers, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man, but then he sees the death of Peter, and he feels like he could have stopped that from happening. Yeah, so Miles first debuted in Ultimate Comics, but you might be thinking, but I see in recent comics Miles in 616. Yeah, don't worry, we'll get to that. But now, we're at one of the worst comic events of all time. Ultimatum. So Magneto decides to mess with Earth's magnetic pulse, and there becomes a massive flood in New York. And it was absolutely bonkers. 20 to 30 heroes died in that. So Wolverine picks up a team of heroes to go fight Magneto. But eventually, Cyclops kills Magneto, and then Quicksilver kills Cyclops. But like I said earlier, this is known as one of the worst comic events of all time, because they just kind of killed everyone off with, no development or anything. And this event kind of killed off the Ultimate Universe. The universe failed, but it still wasn't over yet. Now, we have to go back to Reed Richards. All of these events have just been making him angrier and angrier until he loses control. So on a normal Tuesday one day, Reed Richards' childhood home gets blown up by a beam. Invisible Woman, the Thing, and Human Torch eventually find out that the cause was because of aliens, but then they find out that the person who was leading them was Mr. Fantastic. So little after that, Mr. Fantastic decides to go out into the multiverse and get more knowledge, and he gets so much knowledge that his head gets bigger. But now Reed Richards decides to become a full villain and becomes the Maker. But then the Secret Wars comic event happens, so we gotta talk about that. So in the comic storyline Secret Wars, aka the greatest comic book of all time, there's an incursion between the main Marvel Universe and the Ultimate Universe. So if you don't know what an incursion is, it's basically when 2 universes collide together, and if one doesn't get destroyed in 24 hours or so, both of the universes get destroyed. And both of the universes get destroyed, but thankfully, Doctor Doom took the power of the Beyonder and created Battleworld. It's basically a world with a ton of different things from every universe, and some of the people on there include Mr. Fantastic, the mainline one, but also the Maker. But eventually, mainline Reed Richards stops all of it, and a bunch of stuff happens. The main Marvel Universe comes back, but for the Ultimate Universe, not so much. Miles Morales is now in mainline continuity, and the Maker is there too. Yeah, that's right, even when the universe gets destroyed, this story still goes on. After a little planning, the Maker steals parts to make a teleporter machine and goes to a universe that's pretty much identical to the mainline one. Then it cuts to a young Peter Parker with a spider crawling down and then going to him, and then right before it can bite him, the Maker's there to smack it off. So the Maker has just stopped Peter Parker from becoming Spider-Man in this universe, and this starts the new Ultimate Universe. But don't worry, the heroes are still here. Let me tell you about them. So picture this, Peter Parker is a middle-aged man with wife and kids, and eventually he stumbles upon a spider given to him by Iron Lad. That's actually really interesting because now Peter Parker gets the power after the responsibility. And also, Uncle Ben is still alive, and he's best friends with J. Jonah Jameson. And Howard Stark was Iron Man, and now a teenage Tony Stark is Iron Lad. Hulk's a villain, and he's the Iron Fist too. So far in this new Ultimate Universe, we have Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimates, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men, and now Ultimate Wolverine. And at the time of recording this, Ultimate Wolverine is one issue in, and Wolverine is the Winter Soldier. That's really cool. The new Ultimate Universe is a little over a year in, and honestly, in my opinion, I think it's already better than the original Ultimate Universe. It's that good. But the Maker decides he wants to torture this version of Reed Richards, so he goes up to him. The Maker keeps on calling this version of Reed Doom, and Reed doesn't know why. The Maker tampers with this version of Reed's origin, and the Fantastic Four die when they get their powers. And he just keeps on calling Reed Doom, and eventually, he does become Doom. But the thing is, in this universe, so far, it looks like the Maker is failing. Heroes are still coming up. But this universe is still going on, so we're gonna need to see what goes on. But we've also seen some other heroes that don't have their own Ultimate comic yet. Like, we've seen the Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy in the Ultimates, and we saw Moon Knight in Ultimate Black Panther. And that's the story of the Ultimate Universe so far. It's still going on, and I would highly recommend picking up the new Ultimate Universe. It's so good. And honestly, the Maker's probably my third favorite Marvel villain. He's just behind Doctor Doom and Magneto. So as you can see, the Ultimate Universe has a lot of bad, like the old Ultimate X-Men and Ultimatum, but it also has some good, like both Ultimate Spider-Mans. So despite all the bad, I still really love the Ultimate Universe. But that's the end of the video. I hope you like it, and I'll see y'all in the next one.